Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Q3FY25 ka wire and cable space or cable and wire space as you guys call it, okay? So in this cable and wire space, we have totally, at least in my tracking list, there are around 6 to 7 companies, okay? Polycab is there, KEI, Havells, RR Cable, and we have the Chotu companies such as Delton Cables, Dynamic Cables, Scott Cable and Paramount Communications. So totally 8 company hai. And what you're going to do is we're going to be discussing everybody's PPT and con call first. Like individually हम discuss करेंगे. In the first video, I'll try to cover Polycab and KEI, followed by in the second video RR Cable and Havells. Third video में हम Delton and Dynamic Cables cover करेंगे. And the last fourth video we will cover Paramount and Quartz Cable. ठीक है? So that way. And the last one we will do the P2P analysis also along with it. Okay? We will see how it goes depending on the flow of the video. Either we'll do the P2P analysis at the end, or as we talk, as we talk about one company and then we move to the second company, we try to do between those two. Then we go to the third, then we do all three together. So let's see how the flow of the video is. Even I have not thought about it, but as the flow goes, let's just go with it. Okay. So first thing, the entire cable and wire space, if you look at it, one thing we have seen, right? There was a lot of demand over here. There was a lot of tailwind over here at the start, right? A couple of years ago. Now that we see, one is there has been a bit of slowdown in terms of growth with many of the top players that are there. Now when you tell, I will clearly do the segment as to when you take the entire 8 companies, we'll divide it into 2 segments. The first segment is the big players that are there, that is Polycab, Havells, RR Cable and KEI, and the Chotu players are your Dynamic, Delton, Paramount and Quartz Cable. Okay, these are the 2 segments that is there based on the market cap. And one thing very very clear over here is between these two is जिसका high market cap है, जिसका base बड़ा है, वहां पे you will see there has been a little bit slowdown in terms of growth. Okay, and जिसका छोटू market cap है, weirdly these people are growing at a much faster rate. In fact, you will see them growing at 2x the rate than the peers that are there. Okay, now over here, irrespective of whether you're a small cap, chota cap, या if you're a large cap over here, mid cap, कुछ भी cap हो, there is one common trend over here. Okay, across the industry, the one common trend over here with the wire and cable space, or the cable and wire space as we call it, is the copper wire ka, the copper, the raw material copper and aluminium that is there has been a lot of price fluctuation over here. Okay, because of this copper ka price fluctuation, and because of this there has been destocking in your channel ka inventory. You will see sabka margins that are there are squeezed across the category. Okay, from the topmost player to the bottommost player, it is very very evident over here. Okay, this is the first thing. Okay, so whenever you see that the PAT is down, you see there is no operating leverage, you see the EBITDA margin is down, the biggest reason for this is the raw material price ka fluctuation. The second thing is, okay, earlier we saw a higher investment from the government in terms of spending. When you talk about it, right, there was a higher spending from government side. Now this time we are seeing thoda government spending kam hota ja raha hai yahan pe. And see, all of these companies that are there in the cable and wire space, right, if the government is not investing in your railways and other kind of sectors that are there ना, अगर वहां से spending नहीं आता है ना, तो थोड़ा यहाँ पे demand का slowdown हो ही जाएगा. ठीक है, so that is also there. Okay, so government spending is relatively lower in this last two to 3 quarters compared to what it was earlier also. ठीक है, so this is another trend that we see. Now there is a possibility that this government spending has been low due to the general elections that we've had. We have to go forward and see by the end of the year what the management commentary for this is going to be like also. ठीक है, but one thing very very evident, one is raw material का price fluctuation जिसके वजह से margins का impact हुआ है, and second is we have seen growth का slowdown across the spaces, especially in the large cap का spaces. ठीक है, so now we will come to the part 1 of the video where we will be covering Polycab and KEI का the first part of the video, episode 1 of the cable and wire space Q3FY25 का we will cover Polycab and KEI. ठीक है, we will cover both the PPT and the con call. I believe I've covered the result in detail in the first, I think 20 days ago probably, when the first time the result had come. Now we will discuss in depth over here. Okay, so first let us talk about Polycab India, which used to be the leader in this space. Again, look at the language that I'm using. Used to be, once upon a time, ye fastest growing engine tha. Now it is no longer the case, right? Polycab, if you look at it, the sales grew by 20% on a year on year, and PAT, that is there, PAT grew by 11%. EBITDA margins is stable around 13.8. Last time it was 13.1. Okay, you understand अंडरस्टैंड ऑलरेडी व्हाई एबिटा मार्जिन और पैट का व्हाई ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज यहाँ पे नहीं मिला. यू ऑलरेडी नो द रीजन. नाउ व्हेन यू लुक एट पॉलीकैब देयर आर 3 सेगमेंट्स. ओके, एक है वायर एंड केबल का सेगमेंट है, दूसरा है आपका एफएमईजी का सेगमेंट है, एंड आपका जो तीसरा सेगमेंट है इज योर आई मीन नॉट एक्सपोर्ट आई वुड से बट ईपीसी का थिंग. ओके, योर ईपीसी इज अ वेरी marginally smaller contribution to your top line, so we will discard it. Okay, I mean it's good for nothing over here. The first two categories, especially the cable and wire, which contributes almost more than 70% to your top line. ठीक है, यहाँ पे if you look at it, that this one over here, this space, the cable and wire space, it hardly grew by 12% on a year on year basis. If you remember it, last Q3 में अगर आप देखते हो या उसके पहले अगर आप देखते हो, the cable and wire space used to grow by north of 20% on a year on year basis, and this time it grew only by 12% on a year on year basis. Another thing to note down over here is for these companies, cable and wire companies के लिए H2 is greater than H1. H2 में इनका 60% of the sales होता है and H1 में 40% का around almost sales होता है. So in spite of being a very strong quarter, right, Q3 is very strong, Q4 is very strong, in spite of that you see cable and wire का space hardly grew by 12%. उनका वही reason है, one is copper का prices में इतना fluctuations हुआ है, and the other thing is इतना price का fluctuation हुआ है कि like there has been a lot of channel का इन्वेंटरी में डिस्टॉकिंग का इश्यू है. ठीक है, दिस इज वन. सेकंड इज एफएमईजी. सरप्राइजिंगली एफएमईजी जो है, फास्ट मूविंग इलेक्ट्रिकल गुड्स जो है, दिस ग्रू बाय 45% ऑन ईयर ऑन ईयर बेसिस. नाउ एफएमईजी ग्रोइंग 45%, you might feel very happy, but again this contributes around 15% or to your top line, 15 to 20%. Okay, and here the reason it grew by this fast pace is because if you look at earlier, इसका कुछ है ही नहीं था, इसका बेस इतना छोटू था. ठीक है, so on this base it is growing, it is good for nothing also यहाँ पे, because ultimately आगे जाके बेस तो करेक्ट होगा ना. एंड वन ऑफ द रीजन इज यहाँ पे एफएमईजी में भी बहुत डिविजन है. देयर इज फैंस का डिविजन. अर्लियर दिस फैंस का डिविजन में बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रेगुलेटरी चेंजेस दैट वर देयर, राइट, इट वाज अ बिट impacted. Now the sales are coming back up for fans. Then they have lights and switches ka division, which are also doing really well for them, right, which used to be especially the lights and luminary division, right, earlier, because lights में इतना सारा competition है, there is no volume growth and value growth also. Finally यहाँ पे there we were able to see both volume and value also, so as a result it has been going well for them. ठीक है, so overall well and good. ठीक है, so everything is going well, good for them. ठीक है, pace of growth थोड़ा कम हुआ है, 30% का engine था, now it is at 20% का growth engine, obviously that is there. ठीक है, the other thing over here a lot of people could be happy is because if you look at it, right, if you look at Polycab, it's probably clocked the highest ever revenue, highest ever PAT and all of these things, but none of this is significant when your growth rate is slowing down. Another reason how do you know that the growth rate is slowing down is earlier in FY21 they started this project leap बोल के एक उनका project था. According to the target it was in the next 5 years we will achieve 20,000 crore in terms of top line. ठीक है, this was project leap. In fact project leap they've already done it, right, they've already achieved whatever the targets was, the timeline that was there for project leap, they've already preponed it and done and executed also. Now let's talk about उनका नया project है which is project spring. Okay, now project spring is a guidance for the next 5 years. उन्होंने they haven't given the guidance in terms के like they haven't given the guidance explicitly over here कि like हम कितना top line करेंगे. ठीक है, but here what is they've given, they told that they will grow the entire wire and cable का industry, right, they will grow, if let's say if the industry is growing at X rate, we will grow at 1.5 to 2x more rate than that. Now if you look at this wire and cable का industry का growth rate अगर आप देखते हो, right, so this industry if you look at it, it is growing at somewhere between 12 to 40, yeah, 12 to 14, not 12 to 14%, sorry, yeah, 11 to 13% is a growth rate. ठीक है, इसका the entire wire and cable industry is growing by 11 to 13%. So now when you're telling you're growing, if the industry is growing at 11 to 13%, आपका 1.5x on that is कितना, 19 to 20% का growth rate हो गया ना. Earlier your growth rate used to be 30-35%, 30-35% से आपने you're telling now you will grow at कितना 19 to 20%, right, so that is one thing. The other thing over here is if you will see along with this, right, there were other things that they mentioned what is the target for next 5 years. Okay, because when I made the video last time there were several things like oh no, margins will improve from here, FMEG will be that and this, ठीक है, I will debunk every myth over here. पहला बात है people were telling कि like यहाँ पे margins का scope है improve होने के लिए, but you tell me these people are telling कि like margins जो है in the next 5 years the margins would be the margins would be कितना है यहाँ पे, where is my notes, margins to be around 11 to 13%. Q3 का margins कितना था? 13.8%. So it's not that margins is going to improve from here also. It is going to be in the same range only. Third thing, they told that the third myth was कि like international sales यहाँ से बढ़ जाएगा. As a result, और भी top line और bottom line में we will see the expansion. ठीक है? But over here, उनका next 5 years में the target to reach the international sale is to be 10% of the total revenue. As of 9 months by the way, the contribution of sale is 6%. So अगले साल में 5 साल के बाद in 5 years your contribution of international sale is going to be from 6 to 10%. I mean, come on, how do you expect it to be contributing more to the top line and bottom line जब वो 6% से 10% हो रहा है in a span of 5 years? It is not like अगले साल ही 10% होने वाले. So myth number 3 debunked. Okay, myth number 4 का लोगों का कि like FMEG will grow over here. ठीक है? Now FMEG also the same thing. FMEG का also if you look at the industry growth rate is around 12 to 14%. ठीक है? Which means again they told that they will grow by another 1.5x over here. Again less than 20% का growth rate over here also. The other thing is FMEG में इतना competition है. ठीक है? इतना competition that is so hard to get both volume and value growth over here. ठीक है? Volume growth लाने के लिए you have to go bonkers on distribution, you have to go bonkers in terms of your advertisement. यहाँ पे आपको कोई volume growth, value growth नहीं मिलेगा because look at it, you think about yourself, right? If you want to put up a fan, you really think you're going to be concerned about कि like oh मैं Polycab का लगाऊंगा, oh मैं Havells का लगाऊंगा. Do you really think you care rat's ass shit about that? You don't, right? All you care is about one thing. मुझे एक अच्छा fan चाहिए which goes along with the interior of my house, right? So that is over here. So there is no brand positioning over here for them. Okay, even in spite of it, let's say it's not that that FMEG is going to contribute let's say 50%, right? Going forward यहाँ पे product mix change होने वाले. That is also not going to happen over here. FMEG will be contributing plus 5 minus percentage to the revenue contribution to what it is in FY24 only, right? So again how will it contribute? Again over here also let's say यहाँ पे product mix change होता है, ठीक है? Let's say it is going to come 50% from FMEG and 50% from wire and cable, ठीक है? Rather than how it is 70 from wire and cable. Even if that happens, do you think it is going to be lucrative enough for your margin expansion? Because यहाँ पे hardly any margins in FMEG. It is so difficult for you to maintain यहाँ पे margin expansion होना because यहाँ पे volume growth भी नहीं है, value growth भी नहीं है. इतना competition. It is not marginally accretive product for you कि like if the product mix changes for the good, right? It is going to help you in terms of margin. Like remember in the workshop that we discussed, when is product mix change good and when is product mix change bad? We've discussed this in detail, right? If you're moving towards a higher margin profile product, then it is okay. If you're moving to a lower margin product profile, then how is that product mix change good for you? So do you see over here all the three myths we debunked? One, in terms of margin expansion भी उतना कुछ हो ही नहीं, it's not going to happen. Export also, like I told you, right now it is 6% and they're targeting 10% in the next 5 years. So it's not that even if the export ka mix changes, it will help them. Third is the FMEG also. FMEG also we're not going to see like like itna kuch improvement ke like it will be a significant change to your both top line as well as bottom line. ठीक है? So ये हो गया Polycab का, right? So Polycab now क्या हुआ? इसका pace of growth घट गया. जो 35 किलोमीटर पर आवर और 30 किलोमीटर पर आवर में गाड़ी चल रहा था, now it is running at 20 किलोमीटर पर आवर. ठीक है? And probably that is a growth rate we can expect for the upcoming 5 years, until the Project Spring gets over. ठीक है? So that's that about Polycab. ठीक है? And a quick thing, like I was telling you, right? अभी मैं product mix का मैं बात कर रही थी, and we're talking about sales, we're talking about PAT and a lot of these things. In the workshop, right, that investment checklist workshop, we have done and clearly connected the dots as to like how do we connect each and everything to sale when a certain let's say when cash flow is positive, when it is good, when it is bad, all of these things with multiple case studies using live business examples we've done. I'm going to link in the description box below, the link to the investment checklist workshop. You all can have a look at it and purchase a course from there. Okay, anyways, now let's move to the second company over here. Okay, let us move to KEI. Okay, here also KEI also over here, if you see, sales grew by 20% on a year-on-year basis and PAT grew hardly by 10%. Now one thing over here you have to witness, KEI and Polycab, if you look a year ago, it used to be टक्कर का competition, but क्या होता था, Polycab used to always lead the race compared to KEI, right? KEI used to always be that second player, ठीक है? Polycab used to always be the first. Now can you see one thing? And Polycab ka guidance also was like that only, na 15 to 20% ka growth rate is what they were always guided for, and they always executed it. But since Polycab was always leading the race over here, na, since it was walking the talk also, it made no sense, right? KEI never grew as fast as, or made never as much as money to the shareholders as what Polycab did, okay? And also the reason why Polycab demanded a higher valuation compared to KEI. Now, do you see one thing over here? Polycab was growing at 30, 35 in that range. That has come down to 20. Whereas KEI, which was growing as 15, 17 percentage, that has come to 20 percentage. Can you see? Polycab यहाँ से यहाँ आ गया और KEI यहाँ से यहाँ आ गया. So do you understand this concept of race over here with the entire wire and cable industry? Now what has happened, right? Now one of the reason why KEI का यहाँ पे sales इतना बढ़ रहा है, ठीक है? KEI का sales, one of the reason is, if you look at them over here, they also have two divisions. One is B2C, one is B2B. Okay, B2C is your dealer and distribution, and B2B is your institutional sales. And the last 3 quarters, what we have seen is the B2B portion of the sale is coming down, and B2C portion of the sale is going up. Okay, and if you look at it over here, B2C right now contributes around kitna 50.55 as of Q3, and B2B contributes around 45%, which was ulta in the last Q3. So B2C is better na, because यहाँ पे margin ज़्यादा होता है compared to institutional sales, because B2B are institutional sales, what we talk about here, you have to go back and forth with prices. You don't have that much control, to increase the prices and all. So it becomes very hard for you, आपका margins में, it becomes very hard to get those margins over here. ठीक है? Now why is that, उनका ये B2C portion is increasing more and B2B portion is coming down, less? The reason is because in this B2B ka business that is there, a lot of they have this EPC ka business and other things, right? So over here, if you look at them, one of the in this domestic institutional ka sales, one of the order that is there didn't go through. They didn't get the receipt for this order. As a result, why we can see that the B2B portion of the business is coming down. Similarly, if you look at the EPC part of the business or the export part of the business also, export also grew hardly 6% at this time. ठीक है? One of the reason again इसका भी export उतना कुछ अच्छा नहीं चल रहा है is because they had an order from Gambia, I believe, from somewhere they had, from Gambia का एक project था. So this project also there has been a delay over here, due to that also there has been a degrowth over here. ठीक है? So यहाँ पे these are the two reasons, like, because obviously ना, whenever you're dealing with a B2B business, unless until they don't give you the order, थोड़ा सा order में lag होता है, order में, project में delay होता है in terms of execution, you will face a brunt as a supplier, and that is what has happened to KEI. It is not necessarily like, they've gone massively in terms of increasing the dealer and distribution in B2C, but over here, since a B2B contribution is not that great, since a lot of orders haven't gone through over here, that is why you see that the B2C portion is contributing much more compared to B2C. ठीक है? So this is about KEI. उनका जो capex है, capex is going on well. They have a capex coming up in Chinchparada and Patredi, which will be completed, right? Other than that, if you see, they're planning a capex of 1,000 crore in the next, for the next year. So all in all, good. Now coming to over here, one thing, right? With Polycab, obviously यहाँ पे growth rate कम हुआ है. See, for any stock to be multi-bagger, what do we need? We need two things. We need PE का re-rating to happen, and the second thing we need is the EPS का growth. Now PE का re-rating when will it happen? One, you walk the talk, right? Not just that you have to walk the talk, but you have to be the highest or the fastest growing player in the entire space, which earlier Polycab used to be, right? Like their guidance was 20,000 crore to achieve, and they used to always under guide and overperform, right? And they used to be the fastest growing, because earlier when you see in the entire wire and cable, there were only three players: Havells, KEI and Polycab, and that time Polycab used to come number one. Every single time you used to see Polycab come number one, highest growth rate था. तो उसको P re-rating होके it went over there, ठीक है? And EPS का growth भी था, like थगड़ा operating leverage it used to get always. Now do you see at this point, right, क्या हुआ है? It has gone from, like the number one player. Now we have all this Delton cable, dynamic cable growing at 70-45% and all. So it is no longer that number one player. So going at this point for you to get P re-rating, when your growth rate has come down, it becomes very tough. Okay. Second, आपका EPS भी growth यहाँ पे नहीं हो रहा है, right? EPS का growth is also come under pressure because of this copper का prices, and we saw, right, EPS growth was hardly 10%, around 8 to 10% over here. So Polycab का ये बहुत बड़ी अभी दिक्कत हो रहा है, ठीक है? The second player over here, which we talk about, KEI also the same thing over here. P rating मिलना मुश्किल होता है यहाँ पे. It becomes a little bit tougher over here because you're a 20% growth engine at around 40 to 45 PE है 1 year forward का PE, ठीक है. So it is that high low growth high PE का engine बन जाता है. At the same time, EPS also same situation as Polycab, right? So over here, both the reasons why we need the reasons that make a stock multi-bagger, the PE re-rating and EPS का expansion, right? EPS का expansion looks very weak, and PE का re-rating at this growth, it becomes very hard for you to achieve it, right? So that's that with the first part of the wire and cable and wire and cable जो भी बोलो that is the first part of the cable and wire series which we did Polycab and KEI. In the second part, we will do RR cable and Havels, and third में we will do dynamic and belt on cables, ठीक है.